What's up, everybody? Welcome to Puzzle Huddle with Experts. I have another fantastic guest, Jimmy Day, recently announced as the Colorado Teacher of the Year. So excited about this brother. We went to high school together, and he's now matured into a heck of a professional. And I'm glad to have him online today so I could just learn a little bit about his path into teaching and some of his capabilities and skills and some of the things he's really good at as a teacher. So Jimmy, good afternoon or good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm great, man. You know, blessed, ready to do this work, man.
Yeah. So how long have you? When we were in high school, I don't know that we weren't talking about career paths. I don't think. How did you know or decide that you wanted to be a professional teacher?
Well, I mean, you know, I never thought about being a teacher. Never thought about it. And it's funny because I was provided so many opportunities back when we were in high school from Miss Allen, and you know, she had me arranging music and teaching the band music. Mr. Pruitt would have me, you know, running rehearsals in symphonic band, and then you know, I get, you know, promoted to drum major my senior year. Just all these things, these leadership roles that they were putting me in, and just provide me opportunities to lead. I just never really thought. You know, I didn't even major in music or education when I got to college. I went in as an engineer major, and then shortly after that, I changed my major to fashion merchandising. I mean, don't ask me why.
Well,
I think, no. I mean, I think I was delaying the inevitable. I think it was always there, and I just think I had to take a different path to realize what my purpose was. Like I said, thankfully, the associate band director at Tennessee State at that time, Dr. McDonald, who is now the director of bands at Tennessee State, thankfully he talked me into changing my major, you know, to music, and I went along with it. And from there, I just completely dove into it, and especially when I started doing practicums. You know, just being able to work with students and just kind of see how I connect with them, and how I, you know, and how good I was at, you know, connecting with the student and teaching them what they need to know. I think that just kind of like really sparked this fire, and you know, it was history after that.
Well, take me back to like who put an instrument in your hands in the first place? How did you get enrolled in your first connection with music and musicality and playing an instrument?
Okay, so man, it goes back to the like late 80s. My sisters went to Mackenzie, right? And so I saw when I first got my taste of music, like, oh, I gotta do this. One day I was out in the front yard playing. I was living on Foley off of Grand River, and I heard this booming sound marching down Grand River. I'm like, what is this sound? Just booming sound. And they marched down our side street.
A marching band.
A marching band. So Mackenzie marching band marching down like the side street. And I'm just
marched in front of your house?
It wasn't in front of the house, it was down the side street. My house was like on the corner. Like we was like right there on the corner. So they marched down the side street. So I had a front row look at them. And from that point, I was in awe. So it's like, I gotta be in somebody's
that'll
band.
Get you. That'll get you. Marching band. If you're a little kid, because the rhythm, man, the coordination, the choreography.
Yes.
Oh, that's gonna get your attention.
Oh yeah, and band was big back in Detroit back in them days, man. And so that got me. And then my god brother Che Green at that time, he played drums for the church, and so that had me enthralled, man. Like, oh man, like I got to do this. But it really came down to that one day. I was in 5th grade, and I went to Noble Middle School, and it was I think a K through 8 school. And normally what the band director at the time, he comes up there and recruits some 5th graders. And then we spend like one day a week during the morning going down there learning instruments because he's trying to recruit for his middle school band. And I remember because I was in the class with Alaric and a couple other ones. And so I remember my Alaric was like, hey, I'm playing drums, you know, I'm learning drums and stuff. So I said, oh, I want to get into this. So unfortunately, he was like, well, I'm not doing any more drums, but here, you can play this instrument. And so he walked me in the storage room, took this big awkward looking instrument out the case and handed it to me. He was like, you're going to play this instrument. And I was like, well, I ain't never seen this before. This is not a trumpet. This is not what is this? He's like, well, this is a baritone.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so from that moment, that became my best friend.
What
Since
age or what grade was that?
fifth grade, I was in fifth grade.
So
So
a
what was that, about
baritone for a fifth
11?
grader is as big as half the size of your body.
Yeah, basically, yeah, yeah. Because I wasn't a big kid.
Yeah.
so so yeah. But I mean, it's one of them things that it just fits you. It was just that instrument just fit me from day one. So, I would go as far as to say that I was kind of a natural with it. So that's where my music career like just really started
And
from
how
there.
did you mentioned earlier that you were composing and writing music for the marching band in high school. That sounds like a really advanced level. I don't know what's normal, but that sounds like advanced to me. Because I
Yeah.
wasn't composing music for anybody ever. So for you to do it in high school seems significant. How did you get so savvy in music and capable that you can compose even at the high school level for a musical ensemble?
I mean, of course, you go through the training. You got the basic music theory. The stuff you learn through music, learning how to write. Listen to rhythms and identify notes, transposition. You go through all of that. But I think the thing that got me going was when I was in the band. My first year in the band in high school, just seeing all the other student arrangers around me and seeing how they were
Yeah,
contributing.
it's a
You
peer group,
know,
right? Uh-huh.
yeah, and so that next year as a junior, I wanted to be a leader, and I know that is one of the ways that I would have been able to be a leader. And so I just I remember reaching out to Mr. Pruitt and me and Alric again, bosom buddies. Reached out to Mr. Pruitt and was like, "Hey, we want to learn how to arrange. Like, can you help us out? Can you get us started?" And I remember him sending us this packet of stuff about transpositions, about this and that. And then we used to talk to Miss Allen. Miss Allen used to give us pointers and tips on how to arrange. And so we just kind of took all of that and we just started just messing with it. And eventually we started to get a little bit better at it. And I remember I guess I used to cheat, but I used to listen to videos of the band. We used to have them VHS videos, and
Yeah.
I used to listen to the bands. And if it's a song I like, I would sit there and just try to write what I
Yeah.
heard and I copy the instrumentation and everything. And it was just something to give me a blueprint as to how I need to write stuff. Who had the melody? Who had the background? Who had the counter melody? I would just kind of use that to kind of help me, you know, be able to, you know, successfully arrange the music for the band. And then eventually, that was my template. And eventually I was able to kind of get away with that and kind of come up with my own ideas. But oh yeah, I
So
mean, a lot of research and a lot of picking people's brains.
was that
That's just.
something that is that something that was unique to your experience at that high school, or can many high school students look at the key of the instruments and the key signatures and compose an arrangement? Can many high school students do that, or is that exceptional?
I think it is exceptional. I think it's more natural for somebody to learn how to do that when you have a booming department like Cass Tech had versus
Yeah.
somebody else who just didn't have all the resources. So I would say that, and I don't want to sound like I'm biased or putting anybody down, but I mean when you have the resources, I mean
Yeah.
you can take your level as high as you can go.
And what was your favorite arrangement that you wrote? Like what was your jam? Like your top, when you killed it. Which arrangement was it?
Oh man, I remember we did this short arrangement, and it was a collaborative arrangement. Me and Alaric and our friend Kaz used to come back. Kaz they
Yeah.
used to come back, and so we did a collaborative arrangement. Party Don't Stop, and I mean we heard Jackson State play when we went to their homecoming, so we wanted to do that song, and so
Sing it for me. I know you're a band teacher. How's it go?
let's see. Let me make sure I get my voice right. Dun, 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 dun,
And then the
dun,
beat drops.
dun, 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 boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
dun, dun,
I
dun.
know the
Yeah,
two. I know the two.
yeah, yeah. Was it about
Wow.
Mia X? Was it about Mia X?
Oh, you got me right there fast. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So that was a hot track. That was probably like a No Limit or something at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
I get the kind of groove it was.
Yeah.
Now, but back into this teaching thing.
Okay.
Many other Black male teachers I talked to, they had lots of signals in their life pointing them towards teaching, but they were resistant to it. They didn't want to move in that direction. Why? What was holding you back? If there were things in your life that pointed towards teaching, Why were you resistant to it?
I think I wanted to do something different, right? So I had to audition to get into cast. And so
Okay.
when you audition to get into cast, I had to be an avocational music major, right? I had to be an avocational music major. I couldn't do anything else. You know, and cast had curriculums.
Yeah.
But so 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, I'm heavy into music, playing in ensembles, singing in the chorals, heavy into music.
Okay.
So when I got to college, I just wanted to do something different. You
Yeah.
know, I just, and that's just plain and simple right there. I just wanted to do something different.
All right. And other than a marching band marching down everybody's street, what are some other ways we can inspire young people to, be interested in music, to take up musical instruments? And like we can't put a marching band in everybody's front yard. How do we get more kids into music?
Shoot. First of all, playing an instrument makes you smart. You know, that's one way we could do it because you're working your left and your right brain. I mean, if you think about it, to the outside person looks like we're doing one thing, and that's playing our instruments. But if you really think about it, it's a lot of things that they had to learn in isolation to be able to make it look like, we're doing one thing. Learning how to identify the notes like right on site, remembering where to put your fingers when you see this note. Remember how this rhythm sounds, or remember the sticking when you're when you're playing this rhythm, or what kind of role you need to play. Make sure you're in timing, in time with the band. It's a lot of things that you have to do. So that's going to get you smart. So that's one of the things that I would say. That the second thing will be learning an instrument and being a part of performing ensembles. You're going to get exposed to so much. You're going to get to travel.
Yeah.
A kid from Detroit, I got to travel. We was in high school. We went to Virginia. We went to Jackson, Mississippi. We went to Baton Rouge. Like in college, went to Atlanta. I went to Las Vegas. I went. I was able to travel in all these places that I've never been before. So yeah, you will get. I mean, having that instrument and being in ensembles, it will expose you and take you places that you thought you would never go. And then the third thing, man, having the talent is probably the coolest thing on earth.
It is. It is.
Who don't want to have a talent, right? So
yeah.
I mean,
it's got to be something, and for a lot of sports or instrument or singing, but having some kind of performance capability.
Yes,
is awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So do you struggle to get get kids enrolled in musical class, or do you have more students that want to do it and not enough seats and instruments to accommodate them?
Well, I think it was a shift from COVID. Pre-COVID, I used to recruit and be busting at the seams. I think right before we went into COVID, I was able to recruit really big. I was going to have a huge 8th grade band class that was going to be about 70 students. Oh, wow. And I was going to have a 7th grade band that was going to be around 50, 60 students. And so, but, post pandemic, keeping high expectations, kind of make you hit a wall here and there, because we're trying to get the students back into
being
what you're supposed to do, because you're in person. So, but I would say my numbers, this year are not as big as I would like them to be, but I'll be back up there. I'm not even worried about it. But my retention is solid. It's normally solid, but I'm always trying to do big, it's middle school. Middle school kids like big ensembles. So I'm trying to make it as big as I can possibly make it. So, but yeah, but I'm fine right now. I just want bigger.
Out of all the things you do as a teacher, the ensembles and the conducting and maybe the personal lessons, what's your favorite thing to do as a professional musical educator? Like what is the thing that you delight in out of all these things?
Well, it's funny because one of my it's two things. So one of my favorite things I like to do is when I first meet my students is humanize myself. Students look at you as a teacher and just think, oh, okay, they about to torture me. They about to really make my life miserable. Here we go, and here comes the wall coming up and here comes the resistance. But I always intentionally, every time, show them a little quick video of who I am, just these clips of, where I'm from, who my family is, what things I'm interested in, and just, letting them know that I'm excited to work with them. And, I take that moment, to let the students know that, I'm human just like them. You know, when something funny, you laugh. I laugh too. If something make you angry, I get angry just like you get angry, right? You know, we cut ourselves. Guess what? We both bleed. So I do that to try to make myself human to them. You know, I always joke and say, look, I am not this robot that was brought over here and dropped off in the middle of this band room so I can just make your life miserable. I promise you, I don't have an on and off button on the back of my shoulder. You know, at the end of the day, somebody come and hit the off button and I just fall asleep in the classroom and they boot me back up the next. I said, no, Mr. Day has a life outside of this, you know. So I tell him who Mr. Day is. I tell him who Jimmy is. You know, Jimmy likes wrestling. Jimmy likes gym shoes, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so that is my favorite thing. And one of my other things is just when we perform, that is my heaven, you know. That is my heaven. Nothing bothers me. It's me and my students creating magic. You know, and so, you know, it's just music, no pain. It's just
the experience
of
music is different when there's an audience. Like you can enjoy and be dynamic in music without an audience. But boy, when you do it when a performance on time, but when you're performing, that adds another layer of kind of energy.
Oh yeah, it does.
All right, what's one of your favorite memories as a teacher? You sent me an email about a story where you might have had a student that got emotional.
Yeah.
What's that story?
So let's go back to spring of last school year. So it's like May. And so we just did our district music festival and we did very well. We scored a superior rating. Probably one of the few schools there that performed, you know, out of middle school and high school performed, you know, got a superior rating. And of course, superior rating is the highest rating that, you know, the judges can score an ensemble.
Yeah.
And so leading up to that, you know, band directors, we morph into this, game, right? Because everything has to be tight, everything has to be right, you know, because we getting judged. So I'm nitpicking everything, you know, expectations are high, you know, and I'm pushing the students, you know, it's like it's either all or none, you know, we don't have room to fail. That's not an option. So, you know, pushing them. And, you know, the students don't see that. They don't see that. All they see is in the now. They don't see what the end result is going to be and why you're acting this way or why you're pushing them so much. And so fast forward, we do the performance. Everybody's happy. I tell my administrator, I say, hey, yeah, we got a superior. He said, hey, man, we got to get them some. Because he asked us, like, well, did they get like a trophy or anything? I said, well, no, I normally go and buy them the plaque. They normally give us the paper with the score on it. And that's great. But I like, I like for my students to see their work. So I normally make a plaque for them and put it on the wall. And so he says, well, let's get some for them. Let's get them some medals. I said, that's cool. So order them some medals, right? And so we passing out the medals. And throughout the day, I'm passing to my students. They're, you know, full of pride. They wearing their medals around school.
Really?
And, you know, got their chest out.
They
you know,
wearing them. You got them some medals, and they wearing, and they walked out of the room.
Yeah,
awesome.
They wearing them. I mean, the pride. You just see the beam in their face. That was a great feeling, right? And so, at the end of the day, one of my students came, bump, knocking on my back door. What's that? I opened the door. Hey, I need my medal. I said, okay. I said, come on to my office. So
Lord, you know you got something. They coming looking for you to get theirs.
Man, tell me about it. And so he comes to my office. I give him the medal, and you know, we just kind of have some little chit chat. And you know, he just said, you know what, Mr. Day, I just want to say you are like you. And he named another teacher, and just like y'all, like the best teachers I've ever had. He was like, it's like nobody is better than y'all. And he's like, I'm so appreciative, you know, for you teaching me how to play the clarinet, because you know I wasn't trying to do no music, and so I just really thank you. And he just bursted out into tears. I mean, just bursted out into tears. And you know, I'm just like, oh. So you know, I went and consoled him, and you know, and just, you know, kind of tapped him on the back. You know, it's like, hey man, hey, you know, it's all my honor. You know, I told him I appreciate it. I love teaching him, and you know, and we gonna keep pushing. He was a 7th grader at the time, so he's still in the band now. He's my 8th grade clarinet player, great player. And so, you know, I was like, well, you know, we gonna keep working you, and we gonna make sure you ready to, you know, play in anybody's band by the time you come back as my 8th grader next year. So, you know, he sat there and said some kind words, and you know, I joked with him. I said, okay, now you need to wipe your tears, because you know, as soon as you walk back out here, they're gonna start picking on you for crying, right? He's like, so he laughed. He laughed. I was like, yeah, I got it. I'm gonna clean myself up, but. I mean, that was a great moment, man. I mean, you know, I've never, in the 14 years of teaching, I don't think I've ever had a student to just emotionally break down because they were so overjoyed of the success that I was able to bring them personally and
Yeah.
as in the ensemble. You know, now I've had students to show me appreciation, but to emote like that, that was a first time for me. And so, you know, I didn't really know how to take it like, oh man, he's crying, but that softened my heart up so much. And I'm just like, wow, you know, and just to share that moment with him was just very special.
I don't remember having a lot of teachers that were emotionally available for me to connect with them in that way. It was kind of, teacher, teach class, book, quiz, take home, perform, submit, get graded. And that it was like a very cold
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you make yourself emotionally available for these kinds of things to happen? Um, Instead of
Well,
just the transactional experience that it could be a lot of people's teaching experience.
yeah, well, you know, I tell them first day of school, you know, one of the expectations in my class is that we have to communicate. You know, I let them know, hey, come talk to me. Anything bothering you, talk to me. I'm here. But I also build relationships with them through
Yeah.
different activities. You know, I fist bump my kids every time we come to class, you know, and not only it's a greeting for me to say, hey, how you doing today? But I always tell them it's a non-verbal agreement as well between me and you that you're going to be the best student for me and I'm going to be the best teacher for you. You know, and so I just kind of set up these little things to, you know, just build these relationships so the students can feel comfortable opening up to me like that, you know.
Yeah, that physical connection, right? It's a good chance that nowadays you can't hug the students because
Yeah,
that might come off a certain way. But a
right.
fist bump, I believe, in most cases, is still a pretty safe gesture.
Yeah.
It allows you just a moment of connection that creates a foundation that's different than, okay,
Mm-hmm.
sit down, here's your quiz, here's your pop
Right.
quiz for the day, take the
Right.
quiz, turn it in, I'm gonna grade it.
Right.
What do you think are your strongest capabilities as a teacher? Different teachers are good at different things, and also there's things you're not good at. Well,
Right.
what are the things that you are exceptional at as a teacher?
Well, I would say setting up environmental conditions for my students
Okay.
to thrive as a budding musician. I mean, you know, just the reward for me being intentional and being structured and using knowledgeable best practice, you know, just being knowledgeable of best practices. I think that helps sets the student up to like build their skills up and to eventually like go on and do well in a high school band and then, you know, join the college band, you know. So
Yeah.
I mean, at this point I have some former students that I started in middle school who are now in university bands, you know,
Yeah.
and just to
Yeah.
think like I set that up for them, right? And of course, I don't get the credit. I'm the middle school music teacher,
Yeah.
but I, you know, I started them down that path. And you know, on top of that, I even have some students that's marching in my alma mater at Tennessee State,
Oh, that's
aristocratic band.
awesome.
So it's cool to go and say, "What's up, Craig?" It's cool to say
I
that
bet that's
to my
fantastic to
students.
see that.
That is the best feeling. But yeah, I mean,
And they
just
have your
setting them
band
up.
director, your former assistant band director. They're now marching under who was the assistant band director when you were there.
Yeah, so they're marching now. They're marching up under the head band director, who was the associate band director at the time
Yeah.
when I was there. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, for us parents with young kids, you mentioned, some points of inspiration. You had a cousin that was playing the drums at church, having some sisters that were involved in music, seeing a marching band. But for us parents that have young kids, what are some ways that we can start to introduce our kids to music and playing an instrument? If they're indifferent, did you just have a passion that you wanted to learn an instrument? But for those of us parents whose kids aren't begging for instrument lessons,
Uh-huh.
how do we offer that to them in a compelling way that they might begin to be interested in it?
I think I would go off of my experience. I think exposure, just showing them certain things. If they
Yeah.
just saw a clip of a marching band, or if they saw a clip of a concert band playing, and there's something that
Yeah, that's
strikes them, that can help. So I just think it's some exposure, or I mean, sitting down, having to talk with them and see where their interests are. Or just, say, hey, let's try this out. Tell me what you think. If you like it, then we move forward. If it's not for you, then we'll put it to the side. But I, figure out some kind of opportunity to give, instrumental music a chance with your student. And then if they're in middle school, chances are, and the middle school has a band program, chances are their kid might just be placed in the band class. And then
yeah,
it's
right.
like,
It
okay,
means
they got to learn now.
you got to learn something.
So, and that's basically the story of my career. I never really just went and asked kids, students, hey, do you want to be in the band? They were always placed in my class,
It
and
was
I
a
took
requirement.
these students that were with no experience whatsoever and turned them into budding musicians. So sometimes it's just like that. It's just that cut and dry.
Yeah. Now let's talk about this teacher of the year. Now you are the Colorado teacher of the year. Now I don't know how many teachers there are in Colorado,
Uh,
but there's got to be a few thousand because it's a big state. What are some of the highlights? I don't know if you apply, if you're nominated, but what are some of the
mm,
highlights of your teaching resume that showed up in you as a candidate and helped you win this award?
okay. So one of 60,000.
60,000. Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, you
And
done did your thing, man. Wow.
yes, sir.
That's amazing.
And it's still overwhelming to this day, but yeah, I was nominated. By one of the teachers, my first principal, not teacher, first principal that I worked for when I got here to Colorado. She was the principal my first year. She hired me in, took a chance on me, and everything was history from there. So her and some other folks that I later known about nominated me. So you had to go through the nomination process. And once I was nominated, then I had to go through this whole application. And so, just talking about, my style of teaching, how I connect students and how I do this, how I do that, and, fill out a resume, just the whole application process. And then once they look over the application process and what they see, what they like, then I advance to the next round. I think, just, I know I put myself as a person who has rebuilt or built band programs. I've built or rebuilt 3 band programs in my 14 years. And so that was kind of my launching pad right there, to say the least. That was kind of my way of getting their attention. Like, there's skills that I use, I know what I'm doing. I am a great candidate for this. So since you're looking for somebody, this is your guy right here.
Nothing wrong with being confident. Like I've done some good things around here.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I mean, and then after that, I had an interview, and I did well with the interview, and was knocked over to being a finalist, and then here I am.
All right, and that position is used to be considered for a teacher of the year on a national level, and maybe okay. So that's man, that's a heck of a bullet point on your resume for any future opportunity that you may be interested in.
Yeah,
awesome achievement. But tell me this, because in the national news we hear about teacher shortages, we hear about teacher resignation. We certainly don't see a lot of Black men running into the teaching profession. What are some things that help sustain you and retain you in your position, other than adults need to work in order to earn a living and pay our bills? What are some non-monetary things that really sustain you in your job?
Well, that sustains me is just that me, and I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, it's my passion for teaching. And that's just it. Is my passion for teaching, is what I love doing. I don't even feel, we have our ups and downs, right? But I don't feel like if I have my downs, I just take it as a learning moment. When you enjoy something, you don't call it work. It's just what you do. It's just what you do, right? And so that is what keeps me, understanding that, and also understanding that I can't control every situation. I control what I can. I let the chips fall on situations that I can control, and I just do what it's supposed to do, and make it about making sure my students have, the skills and the technique to be able to do whatever they need to do moving forward. So that is my center of gravity right there. So I really don't kind of, and we can always get paid more and we can always get treated better, but just just having a passion of teaching and my students is what motivates me. That is what keeps me going.
Tell me this: how have you matured as a teacher? What are some things that you maybe used to do one way that you don't do that way anymore? You learn how to do it better, or just you got a more experienced perspective on it, so you refine this kind of thing a little bit? What ways have you matured as a teacher?
The main thing is just understanding how my students learn. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, like just making learning individualized for my students because they come in at all different skill levels. And so as I move forward in my career, I've learned that there's different techniques that I have to use. I can't teach them all as if they're all on the same level, you know. So I had to implement small group learning where I take, you know, small group of students and, you know, that's kind of on the same level, work with them, provide scaffolds and get them to where they need to be, you know, and then, you know, I could possibly bring the whole thing back together and we can move forward. But yeah, just giving them time to practice individually because, you know, after I teach the concept, they have to go and figure it out. And I've learned once they go and take that and they figure it out, they own that moment and they're more appreciative of it. And it gives them confidence and they're ready for the next thing. They get hungry, you know, so just that is what matured me, just learning, just realizing the way that my students learn and just coming up with, you know, unique ways to make sure that they get to where they need to be. So I think that is how I've matured.
What is the breakout in terms of students that may have had some private lessons before they got to you versus kids you're handing the instrument to for the first time? Do you have a component of your class where these kids, if their parents had them in some kind of lesson before they ever entered your space? Is it half and half, or is the private lesson, is that a small, tiny population and most of them you handing them some sheet music the first time they've ever seen it? Or what's the breakout?
So all the students I get is first time.
Okay.
The only way if they have like any type of experience, either if they had me the year before,
Okay,
or they were in a band program before they got to me. But as far as like private lessons, nah, I've never experienced that. But you know, there's also that there have been times where I had a class mixed with first time players and players that I brought back from the previous year that have it, and it is a headache. It's a headache, and it takes planning, it takes setting up strict structures and having strict discipline because you know you're going to have to figure that out. Like, how are you going to, you know, and even though you're not going to be able to get this first time group to where your returner group is, but you still need to have them growing in such a way. Well, probably eventually you could start merging them a little bit. So, and that's where that small group thing comes in. That's where that individual practice thing comes in. That's where all them techniques come in to be able to handle that.
Maybe one more thing for you. Take me back to Oprah Winfrey University, or sometimes there's some places they call it Tennessee State. Other than marching in the band and traveling, what's one of your favorite memories from that HBCU experience?
I mean, anything I did with the aristocratic bands was memorable. I mean, because really my life was the band. I really didn't do much outside of the band on campus. My life was the band. So like all of my memories came from when I was with the band. But I will say going to Las Vegas for the first time was one of my favorite memories because, you know, I mean, hey, I was 21. You know, I was already old enough. So, you know, yeah. So, you know, they gave us some money in our pockets. You know,
that's a new space to exercise your adult, your level of adult.
Right. Trying to see how these slot machines work, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But you know, they put a little money in our pockets. You know, we played Grambling State that weekend, and so we had a battle of the bands the night before, and then we had the game that Saturday. And of course, you know, both nights the AOB, we waxed Grambling State University band both nights.
Okay. I'm gonna take your word for it. It might cause me to go review the YouTube tape, but I'm gonna take your word.
It's out there, man. Go look at it. It's out there. But yeah, man, it was fun, man. I would say that was an awesome time. But like I said, all of my memories comes from being with the aristocratic bands because that was my life from the first note I played in an ensemble to the last note that I played when it was time for me to go. But I will say, hitching onto that, you know, we talk about favorite memories with Tennessee State. fast forward to where I started, I used to work with them during the summer. They used to do a high school band camp, the Edward L. Gray Summer High School Band Camp.
Okay.
And, I used to participate in it and be a camp counselor and clinician, And the real good thing that brought it home was the last year that I did it, my oldest son, Jimmy, he participated in that camp. And so he was a trombone player. And so, we have this thing when the campers do their showcase, and at the end of the showcase, all the, counselors, because we all alumni. So all the counselors, clinicians, we go out there and we play some TSU songs with the camp. And so I stood next to Jimmy, playing some TSU staples that I used to play when I was a freshman. So me and him got to experience that together. So that is so that's kind of like a hook to that. That's kind of like a full circle type of thing with AOB.
It's hard to beat that, man. Playing an instrument next to your child.
Yeah.
And y'all know the same music, same arrangement.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's
magical.
it, man. That's
magical.
That's the thing. Oh, that's all the way up. It's hard to top that. All right. So thank you, Jimmy. Again, congratulations on your award, man. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully you continue to have success in your teaching career. You build a lot of band kids, musicians that, achieve and go into college, and who knows, they might go on to be professional musicians or surgeons or firemen and pilots, right? Who they can pick their own path.
Yes, they can.
But thanks for doing that inspirational work. And thank you, audience. If you have a chance, please like the video, subscribe to our channel so you can hear all of our updates. We appreciate your time, and thanks once again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.